Welcome to Withdraw Consent. I'm Victor. This is Jack. What are you thinking about today?
Okay, today I want to talk about an issue that's not very spicy. We're going to talk about race and racism.
Oh, not spicy.
Okay, so I'm just going to break it down real quick.
Okay.
There's two different ideas. There's diversity is our strength,
Okay.
or there's all human beings are equal and skin colors of pigmentation.
Okay.
Pick a lane, because neither of those are compatible with each other.
They're mutually exclusive, right?
Right. So if you say it's just a skin color, you erase all diversity.
Right.
And if you say diversity is our strength, you've got to say we are unequal. Why are we unequal? Because we have different strengths and weaknesses. It's not random chance that the whole NBA is packed with black people. It's not random chance. They have the small differences that make that specific skill set, make them the best in the world at it.
Totally.
If you say, but it's just pigmentation, and culturally they all end up, no, they're talented, they're skilled. They're not diversity hires getting in there. They're getting in there because they're putting, this is a merit-based sport here.
100%.
And so our entire concept of racism is influenced by these two opposing ideas that just don't go together. And if you want to talk about which one of those is false, we could say that the one that says it's just pigmentation is false, and the NBA proves it. Because there is diversity in different ethnic groups, and there are minor differences, psychological, physical.
Totally.
There's differences, and some of those are genetic, and some of those are cultural or environmental, we'll say. But it's nonsense to say it's just a pigmentation. That's nonsense. Just watch the NBA. And then if you want to talk about the diversity is our strength, you could just turn on the news at any time and say, you could say diversity could be our strength. In a hypothetical, you could say that.
Okay.
But if you say diversity is our strength, when we're just talking about ethnic diversity right now, we're not talking about like genders and stuff like that, you would just be lying to yourself. It's a huge crack that anybody who doesn't like our culture, country, way of life can just shove a wedge in and just start hammering away, which is why we see periodically in timed groups of rioting around elections and stuff. Black people are still getting killed by police in unfair ways during non-riot times.
Really? The riots don't solve things?
No, what I'm saying is, even right now, when there's no rioting going on, there's still bad stuff happening to black people. There's bad stuff happening to white people by police. You know,
Sure.
It's just put under the microscope when they want to use that to cause mass rioting, we'll say. And so if you want to take an honest look at racism, I would just say that a fair definition of racism would be any action taken out of hate against an individual based on their race, ethnicity, skin color. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I would say for modern times, that's a reasonable thing. I mean, if you go way back, as far as I understand, racist was just someone who studied race, like a biologist studies living things.
Right.
So, I mean, we've even evolved from there. But I mean, in current times, if there's no hate, you're just repeating stats, or your life experiences have taught you certain things about different kinds of people. I mean, the human brain works on stereotypes. Everyone says, stereotypes are terrible. No, I can fly all the way around the world, get out of the plane, and trees and bushes and stuff that I've never seen before, I know that's a tree and that's a bush because stereotypes.
Right.
I mean, that's how you couldn't function if your brain didn't work that way. There's nothing wrong with them.
Right. And even things like walking alone at night and seeing a group of women is not as scary as a group of men.
Totally.
A group of men, like one man may be scarier depending, and then you're looking at dress and you're just stereotyping just all these stereotypes and you're assessing the risk. And then maybe you cross the street, maybe you make a run for it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the wise thing. But all those stereotypes help you. But so with my definition of racism, anything you learn in college about racism will be wrong with my definition, because they say like there's microaggressions. Microaggression can't be a thing unless it's intentional under my definition, because my definition is it's an action taken motivated by hatred against a person.
Okay.
So just ignorantly saying something to somebody with an afro. Hey, like your hair, love your hair. You could say that's a microaggression, but there's no hate behind it. And so the problem is they're teaching people that, hey, you need to then say, oh, that white person who just said, you like my hair, you're bad, you're a racist. Diversity is not our strength because the wedge is in and they're just hammering away with a sledgehammer. Because really, the black lady with the afro could be, oh, thank you so much.
It's a compliment. Yeah.
It's a compliment. So anyways, what I'm saying is when you see somebody who is, say, on the news and they're claiming that somebody's a racist, I want you to look at that. Look at their definition and look at my definition and see if they're actually a racist. I'm going to say the answer is probably no.
Probably.
And I'm going to say that's them with their wedge in, hammering away, trying to destroy our country and culture. And they're proving that diversity is not our strength. Because if nobody ever stuck that wedge in that crack, if nobody did, communists, Democrats, Republicans, if nobody ever did that, the colleges, everybody, if nobody ever did that, then it wouldn't really be a weakness. But when you have a crack, there is going to be somebody. It could be Russia, it could be China, it could be there's always somebody to do it. And so if you want to just live a life where you actually look at real stuff and facts. So for example, okay, so they got the FBI crime statistics, right? Mm-hmm. And this is often quoted. And it's a thing where, I mean, it's interesting because they're kind of misleading, but it's like over 50% of homicides are done by black people, black men. And black men make up about 6% of the population. So that would be, say, 44% of the population would be non-black men because it's going to be the men doing the homicides, just to let you know. And so say that would be representative of 12% of the men. So they're highly overrepresented. And if you go, you can find other statistics to show other things. But just saying that statistic is not racism, you know? Because if you said that sentence and then you said, oh, I hate... Okay, but then now it's going to be a racist statement. But it's impossible to look at a fact and say that that's racism unless you add some type of subjective view to that.
Okay.
So like if you were to look at IQ numbers and you were just to make statements of fact, none of those statements are possibly racist.
Okay.
Because there's no hate involved. Now, if you said, you know why white people are so much better than, you could say, well, now you could say that there's some hate involved, perhaps, you know?
Or superiority.
Right. But if you just said the statements like, for example, I'm going to give you an example on the IQ. Music is broken down into two categories. It's rhythm and composition. In composition, white people outscore everybody on the planet. Average is 125, but of course the average, and then there's the greater ones. But and if you look at all the great compositions, they've all come from white people, just 100% of them, we'll say. And you could say that that's racist to say that. It's not, because there's no hate involved. And then if you look at the other side, which is rhythm, white people perform very poorly. Substandard on rhythm, white boys can't dance. It's literally a thing.
Right.
It's borne down by fact. And do you know who's really good at rhythm?
Black people.
Black people. That, interestingly, they tie with American Indians up in the 140s.
Wow.
I don't need to tell you that. You can just look at the rhythmic music made by black people that's incredibly successful and popular, and you could say, oh, that's a thing. None of this is racist, what I'm saying. I'm saying, here's our diversity. Right. Here's a stark example, and some of the examples are less stark than this when you go into different categories where it's like real close, you know? But this is a beautiful thing about human beings, that you have white people with this one ability and you have black people with kind of the opposite ability in the same category. Though. Right. And I mean, they could be complementary, or all I'm saying is it's not racist to talk about this, though. Right. I feel like if you try to talk about anything real regarding race, people are going to call you
fascist or Nazi, I would assume.
Right. And that allegation is completely false, unless you're actually saying something hateful, in which case just own it. Yeah. Because then you could just be like, yeah, whatever, you know, that's how I roll, which is fine. Just do your thing. But if you're letting these false allegations, what you're allowing them to do is you're allowing to censor your behavior, censor your speech, what you can and can't say. But you can say these things because they're using a false definition of racism. And they'll flip their definition quick.
All the time, yeah.
Right. They'll flip it to, oh, it's just a skin color. And then they'll flip it to, oh, you don't believe diversity is our strength? Well, you don't believe that because you either believe it's a skin color or that there is diversity among human beings.
Right.
What do you think about all this?
Yeah, no, it's good. It's you can't let someone calling you a name back you away from reality, which is we're different. I mean, you and I are different, and that's great. It would be boring if I only saw me all the time.
Right.
You want different viewpoints and different thoughts and all that kind of stuff. It makes life interesting. So just because someone says a name, you can't let that get to you. I know just in the last few years, as I've kind of worked on deprogramming, just getting back to the point where I can say the statistics and whatnot, and I'm not worried about if someone calls me a name because I'm determined to base myself in actual reality. And you calling me a name, or someone else calling me a name isn't going to affect me anymore. And just unlearning that for you've been trained for decades not to say certain things and acknowledge certain things, and it's ridiculous.
I agree. I also think we can take these same principles and we can apply them to sexism.
Okay.
Like take out all the different genders and just say like men and women.
Okay.
Men and women are exactly the same. Just kidding.
Right.
Just kidding. Like men and women are completely different.
Yeah.
And then that's the beautiful thing.
Totally.
Because the thing is they're complementary.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing. Even when you get into like homosexual relationships and you see like a masculine man and a feminine man, it's still that same masculine and feminine that's complementing.
Totally.
And I know some relationships aren't like that, even among heterosexual, and sometimes it's reversed, and that's fine. But what I'm saying is, in order to let a lot of the sexism stuff go that you claim is sexism, you're kind of claiming that men and women are equal. And they're not. Men and women are equivalent. They're not equal.
When you say they're equivalent, how are they?
They're equivalent because they're both of equal value.
Okay.
But they're not equal to each other because they can't perform the same tasks.
They're not equal like 1 equals 1.
Well, they're not equal like my wife can't do the same things I can do. And I can't do some of the things that she can do. I can't get my baby to smile at me because he so loves like I cannot get that baby to smile at me because she has all these motherly qualities that I can't. I'm trying to force this baby. I've tried everything, and that's fine though. It's beautiful. Their relationship is just insane. And my relationship with him when he grows up is going to be crazy and she's going to be jealous and that's fine. But so they are both 1 and 1 because they're equivalent. It's just that one is made up of different properties than that one.
Okay.
And so when you say, well, if you want to talk about like equality though, men and women should be treated equally under the law. Okay. We'll say that's not what we're talking about. We're just saying one doesn't equal the other.
Okay. And
so a lot of the falsity of the sexism is saying like, say if you said, why don't women compete in men's sports? We're not talking trans, and this is because I'm just talking about male and female for this talk here. But why can't women compete with men in sports?
Because there's a significant physical advantage held by the men.
Because they would lose everything.
Yes.
And it would take away the beauty of seeing women at their, what was it, Serena or Venus? What was it, the better one?
I think Serena ended up being the younger one. Yeah.
Okay. And then they were talking to her like, hey, you want to go play against this man? He's ranked whatever. And she said no. She's like, no, I love playing tennis. I'm the best woman. Right. I'm not interested in going and getting humiliated by some 100th ranked dude.
Right.
That's nonsense. And it is beautiful to watch women who love a sport compete. But then if you say they're equal with men and try to throw a bunch of women in, say, a football game, like American football, it would be a slaughter. It would be terrible.
Totally.
And the same thing has happened in mixed martial arts.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
It's disgusting, honestly. And so what I want to say is don't let people stop you from saying and thinking what's true by calling you a sexist if you're stating facts.
Right.
If I state that my wife can't lift nearly as much as me, and she'd be fine with me saying that because she'd be like, true.
Yeah.
You know, and while also honoring the really good qualities that she has that I can't even attempt to emulate. Well, I can attempt but fail. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
It's not like when you're saying, well, men are stronger than women. It's not like you shouldn't be doing that to degrade a woman. If
Right.
you're doing that to degrade women, then it kind of comes to the hateful thing and it's kind of sexist.
Right.
And then when you talk about things with like equal pay and stuff, you've got to determine whether or not in a specific situation, if a woman's not getting paid as much as a man of the exact same, we'll say, resume, exact same experience, is it because, and it may be, is it because the boss hates women? And if it is, then it's sexist. If it's not, if it's because the guy works more hours and she has kids and she got to go home and then she needs a day off to take the kids to the doctor, and so he's just gotten the more promotions, then it's not born out of hate and it's not sexism that they have unequal pay. And she shouldn't really be complaining when she sees the amount of, this dude's putting in 64 hours a week, I'm putting in 38 because I can't even just get to because she's got things to do.
Sure.
So what I'm saying is you've got to look at the motivation of whether or not it's based on some type of negative feeling like hatred.
Okay, gotcha.
And then I think that's how we can judge both racism and sexism.
Yeah, it seems like it.
I also think when you look at history and you look at different groups, I want to know if your behavior as a country was based on hate of a different group or love of your own group.
Okay.
When we're talking about racism. So if you had a French, like De Gaulle said so many things that were racist. He's still famous, De Gaulle Airport in Paris and stuff. But the things he said were like, France is for the French people. And the problem is when you come and you put oil in the water, the oil doesn't mix with the water. It rises, and he has these statements and you look at him and walk, that is a terrible racist. Was he? Because was he saying he hates the people of Africa and doesn't want them to come, or say Algeria, we'll say. Does he hate those people and doesn't want them to come? Or does he just want France to be French? And so you have to look at each statement. And I'm not even going to judge that statement. I'm just using this example. Like you got to look at it and really think, is this guy saying this out of hatred or is he, and you can judge then the actions of whole countries that they've taken.
Right.
Are they trying to secure a future for their ethnic people? And then it depends at what cost of other ethnic peoples, That's what I got.
Okay. Well, it's very interesting. Just another video of how to think kind of and how to process the world around you, and that it's, in our opinion, it's okay to acknowledge differences and not talk down about people and that type of thing. But you can still see that races are different, men and women are different. And just don't let the name calling.
And even when you talk down, you can talk down on people as long as it's not motivated out of hatred. Because when I say, hey, white people, you got a low rhythm IQ and white boys can't dance. If I say that, I'm not doing that out of hatred.
Yes.
I'm doing that because it's a factual thing. It's fun to say that little quote. White boys can't jump either. Hey, there's literally genetic things about that. So you can talk down. I'm just, not out of hatred. And I don't know, you didn't,
Yeah, maybe talking down was the wrong words.
Right.
But
because I feel like if you're not allowed to talk down, then you're still getting censored. And you should be able to talk down, but you're not degrading. It's not degrading to say my wife's not as strong as me. It's not. I'm not degrading her at all.
Yeah, it's a statement of fact.
Right. But then if you did it like, oh, those weak women, and you're just talking bad, like women are so weak. I don't know why you would do that, but say you did, then it would actually be sexist.
But that's so saying that same statement, but with a different tone, you're saying it, that makes it sexist?
Right. But like say you threw some expletives in there too. Yeah. But it could be tone too. It could be tone because I could say what I say about, say, white people not having rhythm,
Mm-hmm.
And a black guy could come up and say the same thing in a different tone, throw some crackers on there and just some, I don't know, like some slurs, whatever you honkies, and just throw some and just be hatred in the face and then, throw up the black power fist. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that dude's really racist. Because I would have agreed to all your points if you had just, hey, bud, you want a beer? White boys, they really can't dance. Oh, yeah, no, it's cool. Do you know what I'm saying? because it's coming from derision and trying to degrade someone.
Yeah, but like as you're talking, I don't have a problem with the angry black guy saying that stuff and him being mad. I mean, he's not hurting anybody, and he's just really enthusiastic.
I'm not saying he should be arrested and put in a room. I'm not saying that at all, you know? But I'm saying it is actual racism.
Okay.
And if you say, hey, everybody's just going to be really mean and racist like that, then you're just saying the experiment doesn't work and everybody needs to go back where they came from. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Because if you're going to live together with someone,
gotcha,
temporarily or long term, and there's always these situations, because even if you live in a completely homogenous country, you're going to have tourists. You know, say you're in like Sweden and, it's not, but let's say it's 100% white people. Yeah. You're going to have some Japanese tourists flying. You shouldn't be just degrading them. And you know what I mean? They got a great culture. They got problems. They got great stuff though. And you shouldn't be degrading them out of hate.
Okay.
Do you disagree? Go ahead, hit me.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking of like, well, what if you had an angry white guy who doesn't like black guys? And then you got the angry black guy. And this is what they just do, is just belittle each other. And they're not like doing it in a fun way, but no one ever throws punches or anything. Is that a bad thing?
I mean, I would say that fits my definition of racism on both sides.
That they're both racist. And
I'd say it's not a positive thing.
Okay.
You know, like, I mean, if I go out and just scream at my dog or something, you know?
Okay.
It's like, yeah, he's an old neighbor screaming at his dog, but it's not a good thing. No, there's no benefit, right?
Okay.
And when we're trying to order our lives, we're trying to do things that are beneficial for ourselves, our families, our communities, our friends. You know, we're trying to, right?
Okay. That argument's way better. I like that.
Okay. And if that was the case, and you felt like really racist, okay? So say the black guy, and he just really hates the whites, right? You kill yourself with that anger.
Oh, that eats you up, don't it?
It eats you up. You could just stick to dirty looks and letting the door go and not opening it, like hide your shoes and passive aggressive stuff, you know? Or you could just scream racist epithets. And everybody would look at you like, even the black guys who hate white people would be like, this dude's off his rocker. He's flipped out. Do you know?
Yeah, and you could also redirect that energy if you hate the white people, just then redirect it to black people and go, I'm going to help my people be as great as they can be.
Right. Or you could direct it into a political movement.
Yeah.
You know, where say there was a political movement of black separatism.
Okay.
And dang, I can't remember the guy's name. He was this really cool guy. Do you want to hear the story real fast?
Yeah, definitely.
There was this guy, and he was really cool, and he was famous. And I believe he was from the Caribbean, but he was an American. And he started the Back to Africa movement.
Oh, that's very separatist. Okay.
Yeah, like, we're done with you, Whitey. You know, we're doing our thing. And he got like, I don't know, 1 or 2 million. I didn't research it because I didn't mean to talk about this, but like 1 or 2 million black people to sign. Hey,
in America?
Yeah, American government, send us back, you know? And they had this big old thing until, do you want to guess what happened to him?
He died in a suspicious manner?
Close. Set up by the 3-letter agencies.
Oh. Okay.
All of a sudden it was like there was this fraud involved, this and that, and he had to go hide in the Caribbean because they're like, we don't want to at the time, we don't want to let our labor class go.
Oh, okay.
Because there wasn't a lot of economic mobility at the time for black people as much as there is now, we'll say. And they were like, who's going to clean our lawn or whatever, you know,
clean your lawn,
cut our lawn, just whatever, you know?
Yes.
But it's like, you could also redirect that energy to something like that.
Okay.
And it's not a hateful thing to say, if you're a black person and you say, hey, we want, give us Mississippi or something, you know, like a political movement, whatever. I'm just saying, not a lot's gained espousing hatred to your neighbor or the random person you see at the gas station.
Yeah.
There's not a lot to be gained, and it's socially not acceptable. So everybody, even if they agree with you, is going to be looking at you like you're trash.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah, definitely. Right. Yeah, totally.
Okay.
No, I was just thinking about the guys, the separatists and all that. And if that would be, if there was a black movement to go back to Africa, would that be considered racist today? Or maybe if white people wanted to do that would be racist?
Yeah, that would be interesting, because what if there was a movement and then it's like, you know, so say you got like the black congressional, I forget, caucus. Yeah. And they're like, oh, they got three white allies in the Democrats and the Republicans. Would they then be like, you're a racist?
Right.
We're trying to help them do what they want to do in this situation. And it would be a minority of black people too. It wouldn't be like every black person, you know, would want to volunteer. But yeah, that is an interesting idea though.
Yeah. Hope you got something good out of this video and challenge your way of thinking. Don't afraid to be yourself and let your talk reflect the world around you. We'll see you next time.